I thought I had a good idea. That's how these all start, right? Somebody thinks they have a good idea. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. You let me know. But my good idea was to create a tier list based off of objective data, because that is my main qualm with tier lists, is that they're all subjective. They're all purely based upon the author, their biases, their likes and dislikes. Like, if I created a tier list purely based off of my experience in this game with Enkidu, you know what it would look like. You know what it would look like. But that would be foolish, and it would be a terrible tier list. And so I thought, what can I do besides the most effective thing, which is creating a matchup chart, which I cannot do. I do not know this game. No singular person knows any fighting game. Maybe Justin Wong with MVC2, but a matchup chart for MVC2 is stupid. Nobody knows any fighting game in depth enough with every single character to make a singular matchup chart. You gotta go out, you gotta find other players with more experience that are higher level than you, with other characters that have experienced all these matchups at a higher level than you. That requires way too much effort. Nobody's gonna do that. Tier lists, they're low effort rage bait. That's the entire point of them. So, I went and I looked at the top 100 players on the PC version of this game and on the console version of this game. Slammed them all together, picked out their characters, and here is the raw data for what that looks like. As you can see, we already know this tier list is perfect. Hyde is way up on top, all alone, and we all know he's the most broken character in the game. So this is how I organize them. This is where you get a little bit of subjectivity coming in here. You have to categorize them somehow, right? I felt like that was a pretty decent, solid spread, going basically 4 by 4 by 4, although obviously Hyde up there all by his lonesome. Big surprise for me, Hilda being second place with 14. I was not expecting that at all. Now, obviously, I could sit here and I could nitpick each individual placement in here, and I think you can see some standouts for sure. I certainly see some standouts where it's just like, that they don't belong there. There is no, but this is not bad. Like, I have seen worse. But now here's a second question that I have. While I was doing all the aforementioned activity, when you look at the wiki and you scroll down to, like, it's in their FAQ section, what's the tier list for this game? They put not yet. Now, obviously, I am sure this is something that they put into the page pretty much at the start of this game's lifespan, and they haven't updated it since. And so that's my question now, for this game specifically, because you can't just say, oh, you need to wait for a year before you can create an effective tier list. You don't have to do that for games with larger player bases, with a lot more tournaments going on, and with a lot more of that competition mingling with each other. Whereas if you look at something like this game, the vast majority of the competition of the tournaments that we see are small pockets of the community that are fairly isolated from each other. And so you can't say, like, you look at one community and you're like, oh, okay, a Landrekia is running the town over there. But over here, a Carmine is running the world. Over here, the Hyde is killing everybody. And so you just look at that and you say, okay, well, does that make that character top tier? Is that just a big fish in a small pond scenario? It's hard to tell, and so that's why you need those tournaments where you smash all of those top players together, and then you start seeing how it plays out, and then you really start seeing character strengths and weaknesses. We just haven't really seen a lot of that for this game. But if you look at something like Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, games that have significantly larger player bases with a lot more tournaments being ran and with a lot more people traveling to those tournaments, it's much easier, and it doesn't take anywhere near as much time to kind of come to a solid decision of where characters are mostly at in a tier list. And so that's kind of my thing with this, is that I think this is still correct. Where I think overall, I'll get rid of this. If you're looking at, like I said, I do like most of this, but for instance, standouts that I really do not like, Landrekia and Yuzuriha are the only two placements in this tier list that I'm just straight up like, that is incorrect. There is no way. And then that brings me to the flaw of this particular, well, not the flaw. Two standout flaws that occurred to me while I was making this. First of which is the obvious one. Not everybody plays ranked. So just because, like, the top 100 players in the world, or I guess top 200 technically. Oh, I didn't even think about that one. I'm gonna go with 3 flaws. The top 200 players in the world are not going to be the people who are top 200 on the leaderboard. Ultimately, any ranked format, regardless of how well it is created, how well it is designed, is ultimately going to be more of a marker of how much somebody plays rather than how good they are. You have to be very, very good in order to climb to those high ranks in the first place to maintain them, because at some point you start losing points when you lose, and you start losing more points when you lose than you gain when you win, and it gets very hard to maintain a continuous climb like that. So you still have to be extremely good to get into the top 100, but there are plenty of people who just don't enjoy the ranked format, who won't be doing that grind in the first place. The second flaw, that again I didn't think about, there may be some people, I didn't look closely enough, who are top 100 in both. So they may be, there may be somebody who climbed to top 10 on the console leaderboard and was like, all right, I'm gonna switch to the PC version now. And because they climbed so far initially, they've fallen down to, like, let's say top 50, but now they're top 100 on the PC leaderboard as well. So there may be some people who are counted multiple times throughout this. Third flaw, what character is top on the leaderboard for them is not necessarily the character I would consider their main, who I think belongs here. While I was doing the console version, I saw Kyostyle's name, and he was listed as Kuan. His highest ranked character on console is Kuan. I was like, Kyostyle plays Kuan? I had no idea. I have seen him playing many other characters. I've never seen him play Kuan. So I checked out his profile. He has either 4 or 5 characters, all within about 100,000 rip of each other. I think they're all around like the 2.2 to 2.3 million rip range. If you're looking at Kyostyle, he got second in Evo Japan with Gordeau. The first match I watched at Evo Japan, he played in Kidu, got bodied the first game, switched to Gordeau, won the set from there. When push comes to shove, Kyostyle switches to Gordeau. So if I'm thinking it like, okay, this is an objective top 200 list, and I need to put these people's mains down, Kyostyle gets put down as Gordeau, not as Kuan. So now you have to take one away from Kuan, put one to Gordeau. How many other people is that true for? How many other people have a secondary that's just a little bit higher than their main? Or much higher than their main? Maybe they don't even bother playing their main on ranked because they think it'll give them bad habits with their main, playing in that format. I don't know. So those are the flaws that I could immediately kind of identify with this particular format, and they could cause some pretty decent shifting in terms of where characters actually belong here. Now, for comparison's sake, just for kicks and giggles, because like I said, this is something that is just based upon an objective metric. The results may not be objective. As I said, I disagree with some placements on here. And now here is where I would personally... This would be my own personal tier list. And this is why, again, I think a subjective tier list is very flawed. Originally, you'll see... This was from S through C tier. And that was originally, I just left it like that when I was going to do my own. But then I was looking at these and I was thinking, like... Because originally my A tier were the 4 characters that you see in A+ tier, plus Hilda, plus Batista. And then I was looking at that, like... And then all these other characters down here in B tier. And I was like, these characters, in general, are not strong enough comparatively to deserve their own tier. Like, thinking Hilda and Batista are an entire tier above characters like Vald and Gordeau and Seth, and I'm just naming the characters, you can see them with your eyes. No, absolutely not. At the same time, I think the 4 characters in A+ tier are definitively stronger and deserve to be at least considered somewhat higher than those below them. So I changed it to A+ and A. The other idea was to just smash it all together, only have 3 tiers, which I don't think would be the greatest idea in the world. But you see my S tier, you see my B tier. Those are the characters that I think are the easiest to make with a tier list, and in general are almost always going to be the ones that are agreed upon when you start looking at a bunch of tier lists that are made by... I shouldn't phrase it this way. That are made by people who know what they're talking about, because maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But usually, it's very easy to identify the strongest characters in the game. It's very easy to identify the weakest characters in the game. But then you get into the middle, and I could sit here and I could tweak things for the next 20 hours, and I would not be fully satisfied with any of my decisions. There would still be things where I'd be, questioning myself, like, I don't know, maybe this character belongs to be maybe this character should be moved up a bit. Maybe Gordeau deserves to be an A+ tier. Maybe Ori, like, I feel like I have constantly been over the moon with what Ori's potential is. But I don't think there's really ever been any tournament results that reflect that. You can't say the same about Linne, Nanase, and Akatsuki. Ori is just fully, like, lives rent-free in my brain as, like, I think this character should be top tier. But results don't reflect that. So maybe she should be moved down to A tier. You know what I mean? Like, I could sit here and I could agonize over this for the next 17, 30 years until the next version of this game comes out. And it all shifts again, except Hyde will actually definitively be on a tier of his own because they're going to buff him again for no good reason. Anywho, like I said, I have been, since the start of this game's lifespan, I have been saying this bottom 3 are the characters that are bottom 3. And I have seen absolutely no evidence to suggest that that should be any different. Same thing with the S tier. I think that these are definitively the strongest characters in the game. But then again, the A+ and A tier stuff, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And that's the problem with the subjective tier list. Whereas with this, yoink, with that, you may agree with it, you may disagree with it, but at the very least, there's data to back it up. There's a reason why all these characters are placed where they are. Whereas this one, I put them there because I felt like it. That's my reasoning. Which is why I don't like tier lists like this. So, you let me know. Mainly, I mean, tear this tier list apart if you so desire. I am down for it. In fact, I want you to. But what about this one? Do you think that this is decent? Do you think it's terrible? Do you think I should never do something like this again? Do you think I should try to figure out other little data-driven stuff? Nice words. Data-driven ideas to formulate tier lists. You let me know. I'm curious. But that's all of it. Now I'm going to let it go out into the world. I will let you know. I'm now on Blue Sky. Follow me if you want. Peace.